Good morning, fight fans. You know what time it is. We've got UFC Ottawa this evening. We head north of the border for a UFC card that has only 12 fights on this card, surprisingly. And a lot of these fights are expected to go to a decision. Still playable from a DraftKings perspective, as well as if you want to get your wagers in. We'll start off from the top here. We've got Mitch Gagnon taking on Cole Smith. This is at the 135-pound division. Mitch Gagnon, $8,500 in DraftKings. Overpriced, in my opinion, considering the long layoff and also his track record. Taking on Cole Smith, who comes in at $7,700 on DraftKings, expecting some high ownership on Cole Smith, although he isn't a household name. Cole Smith plus 110 from the betting window, and then you've got Mitch Gagnon sitting at a minus 120. So Mitch Gagnon, in previous fights, we've seen that he has been pretty well-rounded. He's got a solid ground game, throws heavy punches early. You really got to look out for him the first and beginning of the second round in most of his fights. He's fought some tough competition in the past with the likes of Renan Barão as well as Matthew Lopez. Actually, he was winning the fight against Matthew Lopez early. But then you saw a dramatic drop-off in his pace, and he ended up wilting. So I'm expecting Cole Smith, who has won 5 of his 6 fights by finish, to come out here, and it's going to be a little hairy early, though. I think we're going to have Cole Smith come through in this spot. It's something to consider from a DraftKings perspective when we're picking underdogs. You have somebody here who's a live dog. So my pick hesitantly is going to be Cole Smith. Next up, we have a highly debated matchup between Arjan Bhullar against Juan Adams. Juan Adams, the massive heavyweight, 27 years old, taking on Bhullar with the decorated wrestling pedigree. Bhullar, 32 years of age. Bhullar, slight underdog at this point, 7,900 DraftKings, plus 120. We've got Juan Adams, who has crept up to minus 130. This fight is not expected to go to a decision right now at minus 125. Bhullar, Bhullar, who slow pace, methodical, grimy wrestler who, he's got that DC body type. He looks like he could lose about 15 to 20 pounds, and I wonder how it would affect his performance. But he's not very quick. Doesn't possess great head movement. Likes to make fights ugly, and he actually shines in the latter rounds. So Juan Adams, this guy is he's a monster, man. He's a big heavyweight, as I previously mentioned. Throws heavy early. Looked surprisingly adequate in top position. I'm interested to see if Bhullar is able to take Adams down late in the first round or in the second round, how things play out. If Adams gets stuck on bottom, is he gonna get stuck down there for the most of the fight? I also wonder about Bhullar on his back. Let's see what happens here. But my concern, as we've seen in Adams's previous fight, is that after he gets out of the first round, there are some major cardio issues. And this guy, I know his thing is to post pictures of his post weigh-in meals on social media, and I don't understand. I mean, everybody likes to dig in, but you got to wonder how that affects the body when you're getting into the octagon within 24 hours after that. So I'm actually leaning towards the fighter who's going to be much more lower owned in this case, Bular, who may not put up a tremendous DraftKings score, but could pull out a victory here. 7,900, you might find better options for underdogs, but my pick is going to be Bular in this spot. If you want to play GPPs, I could see Adams. He's going to probably unload his arsenal early, and he could get Bular out of there. But if Bular survives the first round, I expect him to either pull out a decision or win by ground and pound later in the fight. Next up, we have this is a fight I've had circled for a couple of months now. In the men's 145-pound division, we have Matt Sales taking on Kyle Nelson. Matt Robo Sales, only 25 years old, headed into Alliance MMA as a high school student at 17 years of age. He's been groomed under our friend Del Fiero as well as Dom Cruz. He has been spoke very highly of, although he only possesses a 7-2 record. Let's move to the other side of the picture very quickly. We have Kyle Nelson, 28 years of age, fighting out of Canada. He is dropping down from 155 pounds, where we saw him take on Carlos Diego Ferreira. And he got finished in the second round. Looked great early, but I think that was a byproduct of Carlos taking a cautious approach and assessing risk in that fight, and looking at who was in front of him, and then capitalizing on that. And we saw Carlos Diego Ferreira finish Nelson in that second round. Nelson was at the Performance Institute for part of this camp. I don't think that's going to make much of a difference. He's the much bigger guy here. He does have a reach, but Matt Sales, when you watch his footage and his fight against Jaime Moraes, this guy, it just jumps off the screen. He is able to get within range, land crisp strikes, whether it's punches, kicks. He can change levels. He's got a tremendous gas tank, tremendous will to win. We saw Sales absorb 4 separate eye pokes during this fight against Moraes, and he actually suffered a detached retina or a torn retina during the fight. That's, for people who haven't sustained an eye injury like that during a fight, obviously it affects your vision greatly, but also totally can throw you off. And Dom Cruz, between the second and third round, had a talk with Sales, and he came out like a man on fire in that third round. Ended up losing the fight, but he won that third round fairly decisively. And I have a feeling we're going to see a Matt Sales come in here and put on a spectacular performance. I was shocked that this fight opened up at minus 130, as Sales was a very, very slight favorite. Sales sitting at minus 225 right now. The fight is actually expected to go to a decision at minus 145. I actually think we'll see Sales get this done inside the distance, possibly in spectacular fashion. If Nelson does have success, I suspect it would be early. Somehow, if Sales is able to, or if he gets taken down, that could be a problem. But in all the previous bouts I've watched with Sales, even when he's on the bottom, when he was stuck in a body lock, getting rear naked choked, and he still peeled away the hands and fought his way back, and this guy does not give up. So I think we're going to see Sales fight extremely well here tonight. Next up, we have a fairly wide line in Nordine Taleb taking on Kyle Prepelic. Both of these guys are from Canada, but Prepelic is 29 years old. He's your second cheapest priced fighter from a DraftKings perspective at $6,900, plus 335 underdog. Doesn't boast the best record with 12-5, but he is an aggressive fighter. I think he's totally outmatched here against Nordine Taleb, who is getting up there in age, 37 years old right now. Nordine Taleb has fought some stiff competition through the years. He's coming off of 2 losses. I suspect he'll play a safe fight, similar to he fought a short notice replacement a few fights ago, but I know Taleb likes to fight at range, and I suspect he'll fight at range for the better portion of this fight. At 9,300, you may not get a finish here. He's a minus 375 favorite, so he could be a safe play in cash, though you may not get those extra points to meet value. So think about it carefully. When you look at those higher priced fighters, you have Chiasson up there, you have Sales up there, and you have Taleb up there. I lean towards Sales out of those. Well, Chiasson number 1, but then I like Sales as the second fighter to come out up top. But Nordine Taleb, I could see a lot of people rolling with him in this DraftKings slate. Next up, my pick, by the way, is Nordine Taleb to win that by decision. Next up, we have Vince Morales against Faraz Sahabi's younger brother here. Sahabi, 31 years of age, $9,000 DraftKings price, minus 150 favorite. This fight is expected to go to a decision. Vince Morales, 28 years of age, 7,200 on the DraftKings board there, and he's sitting at a plus 140 right now. Morales fought well against Song Yadong. Wild at times. He has a pretty good defense, striking defense, so I understand why this fight is expected to go to a decision. Also, Zahabi coming off of that horrific knockout loss. This fight, I think we're going to see a high ownership of Morales. Look at the value you've got there. I don't expect we'll see a finish in this fight. I'll make this quick. I expect a split decision, and I could see Zahabi getting the hometown cooking, even though Morales may outstrike him and land the harder shots. So expect high ownership of Morales and expect a fairly competitive fight. Next up, we have someone who the UFC has been pushing fairly hard. We have Macy Chiasson against Sarah Moraes. Sarah Moraes is 31 years of age. She is coming off of a loss to Bernardo, and not very impressive here. She has a 5-4 record, lowest priced fighter. I don't think she's worth a punt at 6,800. This fight is expected not to go to a decision. I'm looking. Chiasson, I expect DraftKings ownership to be somewhere around 40 to 50%. The problem is at 9,400, you're going to have to do your homework to find the underdogs who are going to hit for you. Chiasson is sitting at minus 750. So one of the safest, if not the safest play on the card. 27 years old, fighting out of Florida's MMA, 4-0 record professionally. So she's got a lot of work to do, and the UFC is pushing her, but this should be a there are no easy fights, but this one's as close as it gets, something like that. So I expect Chiasson to finish inside the distance here. Next up, we have a intriguing matchup between Andrew Sanchez, 31 years of age, fighting now out of TriStar. We know him from his wrestling background and the fight against Ryan James. That was a hell of a beating that James took, but he ended up, Sanchez ended up fading and completely gassing out. That's happened a few times now. Hopefully he's addressed those issues, and he's fighting Marc-Andre Barriault. Barriault, 29 years of age, Canadian prospect, 11-1 record, 7,500 on the DraftKings board, plus 155 underdog. Someone who you could consider, though I'll be honest, I think he's going to get grinded out here. Sanchez, he fought a very unpredictable opponent in Marcus Perez in his last fight. And at 8,700, you're probably going to get some takedowns. Minus 165 favorite. You've got the odds in your favor. This fight is expected to go to a decision, and Sanchez may be a safer play. Though 8,800, you're paying up for Shane Burgos, who there's a lot more potential in that fight from a finishing perspective. So I am not going to have much of Andrew Sanchez nor Mr. Marc-Andre Barriault, but I'm going to pick Andrew Sanchez to win a decision here. Next up, we head to the heavyweight division. We have Walt Big Ticket Harris, who's getting up there in age now, 35 years of age, 8,900 as a DraftKings price, minus 170 at the betting window, taking on Sergey Spivak, who is 24 years of age, 7,300 from a DK perspective, and he's plus 160 as an underdog. This fight is not expected to go to a decision, sitting at minus 275. Spivak, undefeated. When you watch his fight footage, the guy really has not been tested. He looks fairly well-rounded. He can throw strikes. He has a submission game. In this case, he's fighting a Walt Harris who is super athletic, stays on his feet, tough to take down. But the problem with Walt Harris is he's fought a very measured game plan lately. He's not pursuing fighters, pursuing opponents, and he doesn't have the most diverse skill set. He lands with his hands, can throw some kicks, but there's no real ground game there. And I'm interested if Spivak is able to somehow get this fight to the ground. I want to see what happens. So this is a wild card fight. We've got a young heavyweight who is untested, coming in from another promotion, dangerous. I expect low ownership on Spivak's side of things, so maybe worth the play, but I think Harris is going to do enough to get this done. Spivak hasn't fought anyone Harris's caliber. So interesting fight, and my pick is Walt Harris there. Next up, we have in the men's 135-pound division. This is my personal fight of the night. I've been looking forward to this one since it was announced. We've got Merab Dvalishvili against Brad Katona. Dvalishvili is only 28 years old, surprisingly. Possesses an 8-4 record. Serra-Longo fighter, so you know he's getting some good looks with Aljamain Sterling, etc. over there. 8,600 from a DK perspective. Now he's up to a -175 favorite, taking on a Brad Katona at 7,600 plus 165 at the betting window. This is going to come down to a few different things. So Dvalishvili, we know he loves to go for the takedown. He may get multiple takedowns here. Brad Katona has a good get-up game, undefeated. He, in Katona, after he gets to his feet, Dvalishvili should be on him like glue. Katona's jiu-jitsu is going to be a game changer in this fight. That I see that. I am not ruling out Katona by submission. Dvalishvili, when he takes fighters down, he doesn't do much with it. We saw in the Sands fight, and even in the Ricky Simone fight, same thing. Terrion Ware, taking him down. Those you salivate from a DraftKings point of view, knowing that you're going to accrue all of these takedowns. But Katona is a legitimate prospect. He's fought some tough fighters in Bryce Mitchell, and also the way he fought Matthew Lopez. He wasn't in danger. His get-up game was on point, and we haven't seen Katona's cardio tested. I doubt that he has the level of cardio that Dvalishvili has, but we can't rule that out with certainty. So Katona, another thing is he looks great on the feet. He's got a decent boxing game, and this kid is a winner. He's going to be fighting on home turf. I know that SBG has a bad rap nowadays, but Katona is a very intelligent, cerebral fighter, and I actually have him scoring the upset here. Although I am going against a hometown fighter, we have to be objective about this. The challenge is Dvalishvili. There's a high probability that he'll get up on the scorecards early, but late in the second round, third round is when I suspect that Katona may take this fight over. I also think that Katona may land a submission here. Yesterday, I saw that Katona by submission was something like plus 625, so that's worth a look. Alrighty, so the pick here is going to be an underdog, Katona. Next up, we have a firefight. Shane Burgos taking on Cub Swanson. Really looking forward to this fight. Men's 145-pound division. Cub Swanson has fought the who at featherweight, 25-10 record, 7,400 in DraftKings, plus 140 underdog, taking on Shane Burgos, who is the younger fighter. He's been a bit chinny. Should be interested. I'm very interested to see how this plays out. Burgos is only 28 years old, 8,800 in DraftKings, minus 150 at the betting window. This fight is not expected to go to a decision at minus 120. Burgos has suffered one defeat, and even in that defeat against Calvin Kattar, he still wanted to continue, even though he was eating uppercuts and being out jabbed. My concern is Burgos from a defensive perspective. I know he thrives off of putting his hands down and reading his opponents and counter striking, and his awareness is through the roof. But he's been, I remember the Charles Rosa fight, he was getting rocked. This is a huge step up in competition. I am concerned that Burgos may get starstruck in there. So something to consider. Cub Swanson, who comes from the same gym as TJ Dillashaw. I heard that he's been wearing some of that, some of the flack from the EPO issue. So he's been fighting through the criticism, coming all the way across to the East Coast, taking on a tough kid here. I expect high output from both fighters. Whose chin is going to hold up? That's the question here. The savvy vet Swanson, who looks, I'll be honest, he looked much smaller than Shane Burgos yesterday at the weigh-ins, and I think that that's one of the reasons I enjoy doing these breakdowns on fight morning also, is because we get to take a look at the fighters on the scale and also realize that they're going to rehydrate. So my pick here is Shane Burgos. I actually could see this fight ending inside the distance. It opened up at plus 145 to not go the distance, and now I believe it's down to minus 120. So my pick is Shane Burgos here. I'm very interested to see what type of ownership we have in DraftKings today. But be aware that Burgos could get starstruck in there and then outstruck by Cub Swanson. So it's we are playing with fire, and there's scared money don't make money, they say. Co-main event time. Felt like the UFC could do a much better job than what they did with this co-main event. We've got Derek Brunson taking on Elias Theodorou. Elias Theodorou sports a very impressive 16-2 record. Theodorou's the younger fighter, 30 years of age. Derek Brunson he's now 35. Brunson appears to have taken this camp seriously. Went down to Hard Knocks where he's with Henry Hooft. Brunson 8,200. Elias Theodorou 8,000. The line looks like Theodorou is now a minus 115 favorite here. This is a tough fight to call, because if Brunson is unable to land the knockout punch early, and if he's unable to take Theodorou down, then I think he's going to have some problems, because Theodorou is known for his evasiveness. He's known for swinging at air, and in the judges' eyes on home turf, that's a dangerous proposition to bet against Theodorou. I thought that Eric Anders won the previous fight, landing much harder strikes. He had Theodorou in trouble multiple times, and Brunson has the power to get the job done here. It's just a matter of is he going to be able to find Theodorou, and considering the amount of finishes that Derek Brunson has on his resume, and I happened to go to one of the fights that he didn't finish, and he went to a decision against Anderson Silva. He's got to come out aggressive and find Theodorou's chin. He's got to try to corner Theodorou somehow, clinch with him, and this is one of those fights where you shouldn't be worried about getting finished. You should be more worried about catching Theodorou before the gas tank comes into play. So my pick here, long story short, is going to be Derek Brunson. I actually think that it's going to be a rare occurrence here. I'm not going to make a play on it, but I think that Derek Brunson's going to win this fight, and that he has the ability, and I think he will finish Elias. Last but not least, we've got the main event of the evening. We've got Reginald Iaquinta against Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Fascinating main event. Should answer a lot of questions. We've got Donald Cerrone, now 36 years of age, 35-11 professional record. Donald Cerrone last time out, we saw him make adjustments mid-fight after he was eating shots from Alex Hernandez. And those adjustments, namely throwing that knee every time Hernandez tried to close the distance, Hernandez could not change his ways and could not adjust, had no plan B. And that was all she wrote in that matchup. I was really impressed with Cerrone's composure that he showed. He weathered an early storm in that fight. He had to have been so pissed when Alex Hernandez was talking all of that smack leading up to the fight. But he took care of business methodically, and he punished Hernandez and scored that upset. This is a tough fight, man. We've got Cerrone at 7,800 on DraftKings, crowd favorite, DraftKings favorite. But sometimes it's tough to get a read on him after he slides up and down these weight classes. In the past, he had been brittle at 155 pounds. And he's fighting Al, who is at 8,400. Al, his odds have slipped. Now he's sitting at -110 from the betting window. This fight's not expected to go to a decision at -185. So Cerrone, great kickboxing, great ground game. Al Iaquinta is a very interesting play here because we know what he's capable of. The will to win is paramount with him. He's willing to do whatever it takes. We've seen him eat shots from Jorge Masvidal. We've seen him being outgrappled early by Kevin Lee. We've seen him go to a 5-round decision with the champ. And in this fight, I have faith that Matt Serra and Ray Longo have coached him up to a point where Iaquinta will be able to make in-fight adjustments. The in-fight adjustments that Alex Hernandez was unable to make. I also believe that Iaquinta is going to be able to land a kill shot at some point in this fight. We don't see Al wrestle much. I think it's a dangerous proposition to go to the ground with Cowboy. I'm very interested to see how this fight takes place or how it plays out in the clinch. I am also interested because Donald Cerrone looked horrible on the scales yesterday. I'm interested to see what he looks like when he gets into the cage tonight. I think Iaquinta's volume is going to be helpful. I also think that his striking accuracy is going to help him out in this fight. I got to speak with Al Iaquinta's father last year for about an hour at open workouts, and Al wasn't fighting, but he came to support the other Long Island fighters, and he was telling me about all of the technology that he found out about, namely a technology used by fighter pilots to train their eyesight. And it's something that Chris Weidman has also taken advantage of, and we've seen Chris's boxing really step up over his past few fights, despite his losing effort. So Al's boxing has become more crisp, and he also has been able to get out of tough spots on the ground, and that's going to be something that I think he'll need here. I could see him getting put in a bad position on the ground early against Cerrone. So somehow, some way, just like Al Iaquinta has found to get it done in the past, I expect him to get it done here. From a DraftKings perspective, it may not be the highest scoring fight on the card, and you are playing with 5 rounds here, so you may consider stacking this fight. But the pick here in a close fight is going to be Al Iaquinta. Want to wish everybody a pleasant fight day. You can follow me at MMAOddsBreaker as well as on Capper Tech and BetMMA.tips. Good luck in all your contests, and do what you do, people, because it is time. Cheers. 1 in a million, I believe, gonna burn to shine.